Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. This is Beth Wee in the Koinonia Kitchen, and we're doing an overview of step 7 today. And this step, above all the other 12 steps, is about attaining greater humility. But why? Why do we need humility to stay clean, sober, or free from the compulsive behaviors that have been dominating our lives? Well, according to the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous, without humility, no one can stay clean. No one can be free from their obsessive thinking or behaviors. And unless we develop more humility, more than just what we need to stay clean or sober, we don't have a chance at becoming happy. We can't find useful purpose. And we can't summon enough faith to meet adversity if it challenges us. So I guess the deal is, if our God is big enough, we can stay right-sized. What does that mean? Humility. Probably one of the best descriptions of it was on a plaque in Dr. Bob's office. And Robert Holbrook Smith was a doctor that was one of the first 2 people that started the 12-step movement. And this is what the plaque in his office said. Humility, perpetual quietness of the heart. It is to have no trouble. It is never to be fretted or vexed, irritable or sore, to wonder at nothing that is done to me, to feel nothing done against me. It is to be at rest when nobody praises me and when I am blamed or despised. It is to have a blessed home life in myself, where I can go in and shut the door and pray to my Father in secret and be at peace, as in a deep sea of calmness when all around and about me is seeming trouble. Humility. If we can make it a way of life, everyone, we will have a wonderful life. Most people, though, dislike the word, or at best, they misunderstand it. When we hear humility, we think about being humiliated or about humiliation. We think about being pointed at and called different and set apart in a bad way. But the only reason those words were created from the same root is because they mean to be discovered in a false role. That's what being humiliated really means. It means that you've been playing out a role and someone discovered it. Humility is authenticity. It's being who we were created to be. There's no false self covering us up. If we're humble people, there's no reason to hide in life. There's no reason to lie. So, oddly enough, humility and humbly asking him to remove our shortcomings brings us back to the instincts. If the satisfaction of our basic natural desires is the main object of our lives, then we're going to have a limited life. We're egocentric and self-absorbed, which is the opposite of having humility. When we're in this state, we have no quality in relationships with self, with other people, or even with the higher power. So let's look back at our 4th step and see if we were blameless. Yikes. How did we limbo? We limboed so low to get those instinctive needs met. And then we added booze, drugs, or other excesses and left our true selves buried in the mire. So our crippling handicap through our whole life and all the struggles that we've gone through is a lack of humility. So we have to ask ourselves, which is going to come first, character building or spiritual values or material satisfactions, or what's the main goal in life? How can we live and function at our full potential? And what does selfishness have to do with any of this? I remember someone once showed me in the big book, which is the book Alcoholics Anonymous, It's the first book. It was published in 1939, and it listed the 12 steps of recovery. But they said on one of the pages there, selfishness and self-centeredness. That is the root of our troubles. So if that's the root, selfishness and self-centeredness, if you're asking me to choose between character building and comfort, I'm sorry, I'm going for the comfort because it's all about me. So what does that mean to the person trying to live a 12-step life? Are you going to meetings or relaxing at home? Are you forgiving people when they wrong you, or are you self-righteously holding on to that anger? Do you take a newcomer's call, or do you let voicemail pick it up? Do you cook a healthy meal or grab some crappy fast food? Do you recycle your plastic bottles or just throw them in the trash? They're just little choices. Do you return your grocery cart when you're done with it? Do you take a neighbor's trash can to the side of the street if it's blown out in the road? These are just some of the ways that we might choose self when we're spiritually asleep. Step 7 is asking us to look at these actions because Step 7 is encouraging us to grow in humility, and the details of living will change automatically. The first change will happen in the way we think. Life and all the issues that revolve around it will have a place to go because we'll be looking at the principles behind the steps. We'll be looking at honesty, at courage, at faith, at hope, at integrity, at willingness. And we'll be doing something about the things that come up in our life. We'll be able to exercise permanent values for the first time for many of us. And this happens when we move away from selfishness and toward humility. We're moving away from the false self that ego creates and toward the authentic self that the higher power created. As long as we were convinced that we could live exclusively by our own individual strength and intelligence, that working faith we wanted was impossible. This was true even when we believed that there is a God. The faith in God didn't work when we thought our own individual and strength and intelligence would get us through it. Our lives remained barren. This is the step that can change all that. Step 7 is like a spiritual alarm clock. We've been sleepwalking through life, so don't hit snooze. Start to wake up each day spiritually. You know, we learned that the basic ingredient of all humility was a desire to seek and do God's will. This is a really big change for most of us because all we ever thought about was me, me, me. They say that the ism at the end of alcoholism stands for I, self, me. It's all about me. It's selfish. It's self-absorbed. It's self-centered. It's self whatever you want to say. Put self in front of it, and I live into that if I'm living as an active addict, alcoholic, or compulsive behavior person. So a whole lifetime geared towards self-centeredness is not going to be set in reverse at once. Be patient with yourself, but talk to your higher power and tell him, please change the desires of my heart. Let what I desire most in this world be in keeping with living a happy and usefully whole life where your will is done. It sounds like an easy thing because it is. The verb in this whole step is ask. You have to ask him if you want something to change. Humbly ask him to remove your shortcoming. What's going to happen, guys, is you're going to have a new record. You've probably already started one. And you're going to remember the desperation you felt when you did step 1. You're going to remember your recognition of your character flaws that you discovered in step 4. And you're going to let go of even some of our favorite defects of character in step 6. but we still need humility. And we ask for it only because it's necessary for us to survive. Do you remember your first taste of peace of mind? What does peace of mind have to do with serenity? Well, they're very close, aren't they? And we need serenity to accept the things we can't change. That's part of humility. Knowing when it's your work and when it's not your work. You can't change other people, places, or things. But you can change your attitude. You can change your approach. You can change what behavior you decide to enact. There are some things that are in the periphery of your ability to make a change. And so you ask for courage to change those things. Are you ready for a revolutionary change in your outlook? Because step 7 provides it for you. Because you start to begin to understand the word humility. And you'll see failure and misery plus humility. Even though you're failing, even though you're miserable, when you add humility, it moves you into strength and healing. I'm not quite sure how it works, but it's something about letting go of the old lies. It's about honesty on steroids. Humility is like honesty on steroids. And something's going to change with your understanding of your higher power and your attitude toward your higher power. You will develop a more mature relationship, no longer just muttering foxhole prayers, but having actual conversations with God. This is just another sign that the steps are becoming part of your way of life, not just a tool in a recovery program, but a way to live your life. Okay, so why take step 7? Why humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings? The first thing is we want to live in peace with ourselves and with others, but mostly with ourselves. We're still fighting ourselves. We're debating. We're criticizing ourselves. We're calling ourselves names in our head. We want that to stop. We want to be at peace. The next reason, we want to know that the grace of God is operating in our lives, and as humility increases, we will see the grace of God, and it will come out of our own hands. We will do for others what we didn't know how to do for ourselves. It will be incredibly exciting. And we will stop making unreasonable demands upon ourselves, upon others, and upon God as we come to know who we really are and what our real purpose is. You know, they say that self-centered fear is the chief activator of our character defects. And we're afraid we're going to lose something we already have or fail to get something we think we need. So when we feel that fear, when we feel anxiety or fear, we need to watch out. We need to be restored to sanity. Maybe go to a meeting, and if you can't get to a meeting, pause and ask for quiet. Connect with the higher power. You know, in Bill's Reader, it's a book called As Bill Sees It. He wrote about humility. This is Bill Wilson, one of the men who put together the 12 steps of recovery. And this is what Bill said: humility, an accurate assessment of self, and acceptance of the same. It includes acceptance of myself right where I am right now, where I've been, and where I'm going. Humility calls me to listen for God's will instead of my own, and to do that will instead of what gives me instant gratification. So, humility, we need it. And what we're going to do is learn a prayer that will help us say it. This is called the 7-step prayer, and it's again in the big book, the book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And it goes like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Humility. It's knowing who you are and living into your real potential. Come on, we can't wait to see what you can bring to the mix. It's time to take addiction out of the shadows and shine the encouraging light of recovery on everyone affected. Good Seed Podcast is powered by BethWE.com, a nonprofit ministry based in Vero Beach, Florida. We'll start the uncomfortable conversations that turn despair into hope and complacency into action. Connect, communicate, and thrive with us. Check us out online at BethWE.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk again soon.